Okay. Let's begin the case.
We are doing the Black Dahlia
The
today.
Black Dahlia, aka Elizabeth Short.
Yes.
We are going to call her Elizabeth in this, not the Black Dahlia, because we talk about a lot about knowing a lot about the Black Dahlia, but we don't know talk enough about the actual victim, Elizabeth Short. I mean, what? You didn't even know her name was Elizabeth Short until
No.
Yeah.
So recently, because I didn't know she had a name.
Exactly.
Because all we knew her as was
the
Black Dahlia.
And she does have a name. Her name is Elizabeth Short.
So we're gonna learn about Miss Elizabeth Short.
So this case is pretty well known. And so we're gonna get just straight into this case. So on January 15th, 1947, Betty Berzinger and her 3-year-old daughter were taking a nice morning stroll in Limerick of Los Angeles. It's 5 miles outside of Hollywood, and it's newly developed at the time. And it was a planned community, and there were still quite a few empty lots. And they were walking along Norton Avenue, and people would use the vacant lots to dump garbage and stuff, which, by the way, is rude.
And illegal.
Throw away your garbage.
Yeah. Thanks to you, now we get fined for it.
Yeah. So as they're walking, right, Betty caught sight of a pale white thing in an empty lot, and at first she was like, "Oh, someone left a broken tailor mannequin in the lot rather than getting rid of it properly." But as she approached it with her 3-year-old daughter, she realized it was not a mannequin. It was a mutilated body of a woman who had been bisected at the waist. So one of the reasons, I'm just going to say here, she couldn't tell that it was a body was because it was dumped right next to the sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
It was right next to them, meaning whoever killed her and dumped her wanted her to be found immediately.
Yeah.
Didn't want it to be found later. Whoever also had dumped her. So Betty realized that as she realized it was a bisected body, didn't want a 3-year-old to see it, grabbed her daughter and ran to the nearest phone. And she called the University Division of the LAPD and reported what she had seen. Now, she must have been panicked, or the operator was confused, or something like that, because the dispatcher gave it to the police and said it might be a 390, which is a stuporous drunk in the lot at 39th and North.
Okay.
Basically meaning someone was sleeping off their drinking in the middle of a lot.
Yeah.
Now the communications officer also, again, did not get Betty's name, her phone number, or her address so they could contact her again. Didn't get any of that information. Just let her hang up.
No.
So they actually had to put a bunch of messages in the newspaper to find out who Betty was. And it took like 10 days for them to identify her and actually contact her about her finding the body.
Be lucky that she read the paper.
Yeah. So, now expecting to find someone drinking off the night of drinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
The dispatcher sent a single patrol car to investigate the call. Countless journalists and press and photographers had heard the call go out, and they got in their cars and they wanted to see if this was like a major story. And the Los Angeles Examiner's reporters, Will Fowler and his partner Felix Pagel, were the first to arrive on scene. They arrived before the police, and they were shocked. Fowler said there was something about a dead body you can't mistake. It was difficult to describe the two parts of the body as being one. However, both sides were facing upwards. Her arms were over her head. She was described as her translucent blue eyes were half open. And one of the journalists said that he had closed her eyelids, which is really sweet.
It's respectful.
It's respectful, but don't touch the dead body.
Yeah. And I'm surprised that, depending, I guess, in this time frame, depending on where the police station is,
47.
the fact that it took.
Well, because they thought it was a stuporous one.
So they took their sweet time. They just didn't. They didn't go. Well, and the lady that probably called, Betty, was probably frantic.
And instead of being like, you know what, there's probably an issue here. If this woman is calling frantic, she's just over exaggerating. She's a woman. She's emotional. It's just a drunk person.
I mean, that's what we get told now.
Yeah. Now, the patrol officers arrived a few moments later
Hmm.
and called the division and be like, "This is not a Staporius drunk. This is a dead woman that's been mutilated."
Yeah.
And the news brought more reporters as soon as they heard that. And the scene was overtaken by reporters, photographers, and additional LAPD officers who were nearby. It was absolute chaos. So, in order to keep as many people as they could out of the crime scene, detectives told patrol officers and even some reporters they needed people to make a human chain around the perimeter to keep people out. So they literally, reporters, patrol officers were like hooked
Linking.
arm in arm, making it that no one could go past to look at the crime scene.
Wow.
And by this point, the scene had been trampled on by so many people going out, in and out, because you know how sometimes after a crime scene, they'll like block off the crime scene so no one can enter the crime scene?
Yeah.
They never did that.
So we still haven't learned anything over the years of cases that you need to keep people out, not allowing them to go in.
Yeah, even after the crime scene's been investigated, because sometimes they come back and they find new
They'll
things.
yeah they'll you do another like a follow up
Hmm.
investigation to make sure you didn't miss a possible piece of key evidence.
Yeah, so at this point, everything's been tainted because they didn't lock it off after they left either to go back and examine it. So people were just still going
Sorry.
to where the crime scene was and just examining it and trampling over any evidence. So, 1947. There's not a lot of like technology that we have now to begin with. And at this point, it was also common for bodies to be dumped in various locations like this lot. Um, but the police, when they saw this murder, knew this was
Not
not one of their run of the mill murders. They had whoever had killed her had positioned Elizabeth's body in a particular way, and had chosen a location where she would be found quickly. They had also posed the two halves to have exactly 12 inches between them.
and then not only that, just the pose itself for her to be laying
Yeah,
like
it's
she's
very much
like a model pose, like she's laying on a
um,
piece of furniture or
or a bed or
on
something like that.
laying down, and they're taking her picture.
And then what was also really weird is, I don't know if you know this, she's placed asymmetrically. So her torso's here, but her legs are here. And
Yeah,
there's just
it's
like a little bit of like
in the photos when
her
you showed me.
her torso's here, and then her torso ends here, and her legs start here.
So I wonder if they kind of did. Sorry, I'm gonna attempt this. So her laying like this, like her body was positioned like this to where she's looking up at whoever, but her like she's saying her legs are more to the left,
Like this. Well,
where
no,
which
they
you
didn't
show.
overlap.
Oh Lord, she way the hell away from her bottom half.
Yeah, exactly 12 feet.
Wow. Yeah, that's horrible.
Yeah, exactly 12 feet. And I forgot, they don't even overlap. The torso ends here and the legs start here.
Yeah,
Like
it's literally like the edge of your hip lining up.
it's
The right edge of your hip lining up with the left side where your hip should go
your torso.
attached
Yeah.
to your torso.
Which is such a weird pose.
Yeah, it's like
Anyway,
yeah.
it's weird. Um, she was completely nude. Um, and then it was clear whoever was trying to pose her was trying to add a shock factor to this already shocking murder.
Didn't a reporter cover her up? Didn't you say that?
Close her eyes. We saw the photo that later on they eventually covered her with a sheet because so many reporters and photographers were taking pictures of her body and she was in the nude. So eventually they covered her with something.
Should have
Because
done that first.
yeah. So something the police were able to determine pretty quickly,
Hmm.
straight off the bat, was that whoever had done this was a sex crime. This was done with the intention of sexual gratification.
Mm.
Whether she was SA'd, they did not know. But this looked like a crime that you don't have to SA someone to get sexual gratification from murdering them.
Wow.
So this was one of those. The level of violence during the kill and after the kill exceeded what most veteran officers on the force had dealt with in the past
Yeah.
and would probably ever deal with in the future. Detective P.W. Freestone told reporters, "This is the most brutal example of a sex crime I have ever seen."
Wow.
She had been cleanly bisected at the waist. And I mean cleanly, like it was surgical. Like they had managed not to cut organs too. Like that's how clean of a cut it was.
So it means it could be a number of people, a number of possibilities: a surgeon, a coroner. I don't know about butchers or people that have killed animals before and just know how to go about it.
Yeah, because I don't know how you don't kill an animal by cutting it in half. Because whoever did it, when they cut the spinal cord, they also did it really smoothly. And unless you have a guillotine that can that's super sharp that can just cut through a body really easily, you have to have some sort of medical knowledge to get that kind of a cut.
The precision, yeah.
There was also something of note at the crime scene. There was no blood at the scene, meaning she hadn't been killed there. She had been killed elsewhere in Fox. And there was also again another note with the blood was that she had been completely drained of blood, hence why she looked like a mannequin. All 4.6 liters of blood in her were completely drained.
Which to me, that would be either a surgeon or a coroner that would know how to precisely do that stuff.
And I will say, when I was listening to a podcast, they brought up the idea of maybe a hunter would know how to if they hung her up upside down or something like that.
That too, yeah, could see that.
So she also had been beaten pretty badly. There were a lot of lacerations on her face and head. And the killer had also cut her mouth from ear to ear, creating a Glasgow smile, aka a permanent smile.
Yeah.
Joker almost.
And it's not a great photo. That was
Yeah.
It was very brutal. I'm gonna call it brutal.
There is actually an actor with
an actor with the ass.
a Glasgow smile. He was in Sons of Anarchy. Tommy Flanagan. He has that. That is typically what it looks like. Because they don't cut your actual cheek, from what I understand. They cut the skin, so it kind of creates.
Wow. So that's what he literally has.
Yes.
It's like etched, not etched on him, but
it's scarred onto him.
It's scarred on him. Wow.
Is also known as a Chelsea grin. It's a type of facial torture. Where cut from the mouth corners to the ear. This will leave a permanent scar that resembles a black smile.
So that means that happened. Did that happen to him? Oh wow.
The act is usually done with a sharp object like a utility knife or broken glass, and sometimes further assault with a knife or kick. Basically, if you screamed, you made
made it bigger.
You made it worse.
Yeah.
And this Glasgow smile was bad. There were pieces you could see her teeth. It was rough.
It's brutal, very brutal.
They also said that she had ligature marks on her neck, wrists, and ankles. That meant she was bound when she was alive and she was restrained. That's just horrible to think of. Her face is beaten. She has a Glasgow smile, and she's been restrained.
Kind of, and I know we're gonna do a Jack the Ripper type thing, but the Glasgow smile to me would be like something Jack the Ripper might do. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, but
we'll talk.
We'll know later.
So the police ended up fanning out and started combing a lot for any evidence they could find. And they didn't get much. They found a corner of a paper cement bag with what they thought was diluted blood on it. And they theorized that the cement bags were used to carry both sections of the body. There was also visible tire marks on the sidewalk and a slightly bloody heel print of a man's shoe. According to former Detective Steve Hodel, who is an important person in this case, these two pieces of evidence were not secured or photographed by the detectives on scene. So they never were able to use it. And so basically the ball was dropped on that pretty heavily.
What? Will whack me in the face with her tail.
Other than that, there was nothing of note. There was no ID of the body. There was nothing. So the body was labeled Jane Doe number 1 and transported to the coroner's office. Now, the next morning, an autopsy was conducted by Frederick Newbar, who was the chief autopsy surgeon for the county of Los Angeles. Newbar listed the cause of death as hemorrhage and shock from a concussion of the brain and lacerations of her face. So basically, he's saying that she experienced the giant head trauma,
Mm.
and then the Glasgow smiles will kill her. The bleeding, the hemorrhaging trauma of that killed her.
Wow.
Um, there was also an additional incision on her body, just below her navel and just above her pubic area,
Mm.
and several smaller cuts and bruises all over her body that he claimed were likely defensively.
Mm.
Um, there was evidence saying that she had been SA'd, but sperm was not accounted for when they did the autopsy.
Mm.
Newbar estimated the time of death was to be somewhere between 24 hours before the body was discovered, and he couldn't be more precise than that. He also couldn't tell because it looked like a hemi.
She wants under the blanket. Sorry. She keeps looking at you or me. Uh-uh. Ah! Stop. Don't lick my cup. On the top, you can lick the water. On the side, not the top. There you go. Sorry. Needy cats.
Um, so there was an incision just below her navel and just above her pubic area,
Mm-hmm.
and then smaller cuts and bruises all over her body. Newbar, he couldn't also tell because it looked like a hemicoroptomy, which was a rather new surgical procedure that came into use after World War II.
Mm.
Now, this procedure involved removing everything from the waist down from a surviving person. Luckily, from what he could tell, the procedure had been done after the death of the victim.
What are you doing, Tataru? You know you're distracting.
This cat is trying to like get up on the couch, but like is also under the blanket, and it's very confusing. Um, and it's the precision in which this procedure has to be done suggested that whoever did the bisection, because it
I
might
think
have
she's trying to get out.
no.
What are you doing, you weirdo?
Um, so he also the person who did this procedure, the person who did the autopsy,
Mm-hmm.
theorized it might have been two people who did this procedure.
Oh.
That it could have been a duo who killed. Um, he noted the body was washed before it was left in the lot, and it was thoroughly washed. So they had cleaned
A
the body.
coroner would do something like that.
Yeah, the surgery he had mentioned,
Yeah.
the procedure that cuts in half, um, was a last resort procedure, and you have to cut through a specific lumbar vertebrae, so you don't have to cut bone. You also have to reroute stuff because you're removing the genitalia and the rectum and all that stuff. You have to. It's a very intense and complicated procedure, and again, it was a new procedure. Come on. Basically, whoever did this to her knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
They knew this procedure. During the autopsy fingerprints were taken and passed to the main offices of the FBI in their coverage of and the FBI. And in their coverage, the Los Angeles Examiner included a lengthy description of who the girl was. They were hoping someone would see the description and come forward.
Mm-hmm.
The Examiner said the girl was 15 to 16, with enameled pink toenails and a 3.5-inch operational scar on the right side of her back. She was also described as rather well developed with small bones and trim legs. Um, the FBI did come through though with her ID. Um, the FBI came through the identification division of the Washington D.C. office.
Uh-huh.
They got the photographs of the body and the fingerprints, and were able to identify them as Elizabeth Short from 104 million possible matches.
Wow.
And back then they didn't have computers; they did it all by hand.
Wow. Dang. That all right, FBI. That's impressive. That's pretty impressive.
That's
Better than the cops.
Short's fingerprints were on file because she had filled out an application at Camp Cook in 1943 to be a clerk.
Oh, okay.
This was a second set of fingerprints from that year after she was arrested on charges of violating juvenile court laws.
Ooh.
She was not 15 to 16 as the examiner thought. She was 22.
I was gonna say, When you said 15, I was like, no, in my head thinking, no, she wasn't. She was older than that.
But because of the body and everything, he was like,
Mm.
she's 15 to 16. Elizabeth Short, we're going to talk about the victim now, was born July 29th in 1924 in the Hyde Park neighborhood of Boston. She was born to Cleo Alvin and Phoebe Short and raised in Medford, which is a working class suburb 10 miles outside of the city.
Mm-hmm.
At the time of Elizabeth's birth, Cleo worked in a construction building miniature golf courses and other attractions like that. So
Okay.
her dad built that stuff. And when the stock market crashed in 1929, he became unemployed and lost all of his savings.
Mm.
A year later, in 1930, Charleston police found Alvin's car abandoned on a bridge, and he was believed to have taken his own life by drowning in the Chillies River.
Oh, wow.
But a short time later, it's found he faked his death and abandoned his family and moved to California.
What an asshat. Jeez, I'm like about to start feeling sorry for the kid here. Nope. Wow.
Yeah, so her dad faked his death.
He could have just went and asked for a divorce.
And at this time, Elizabeth was only 6, and this was a pretty traumatic event for her.
Yeah.
Phoebe Short became the sole provider of Elizabeth and her 4 sisters.
Okay.
So he left 5 girls in the 1930s.
How much hatred did they have for him?
She was a bookkeeper. With only one income, the family struggled but managed to survive the Depression without an insane amount of hardship. During her childhood, Elizabeth began to experience chronic bronchitis and severe asthma, which
Mm.
actually resulted in needing lung surgery at 15.
Oh,
And
okay. The wound in the back.
following her surgery, the doctor suggested Elizabeth would be better off in a warmer climate, so she began spending her winter breaks in Miami with family friends. After 3 years of wintering in Miami, Elizabeth dropped out of Medford High School during her sophomore year and moved to Miami Beach, and she found work as a waitress on her own for the first time. And she struck up a relationship with Major Matt Gordon Jr., who was an Air Force pilot stationed at a nearby base. A short time later, in 1943, Gordon was shipped overseas, and Elizabeth decided to relocate to California because she wanted to live with her father in Viejo. So they reconnected, and it was during this period she actually did work as a clerk at Camp Cook.
Mm.
But her relationship with her father became very strange. Within a few weeks, she moved to Santa Barbara, and her father told reporters after her death, I made her leave. I didn't want anything to do with her, any of the rest of the family again.
Whatever.
I was it was there in Santa Barbara she was arrested for violating juvenile court laws when she was picked up for underage drinking at a Santa Barbara
Mm.
nightclub.
Shame, shame.
During her hearing, the judge sentenced her to probation, provided Elizabeth accepted a train ticket to Medford, Massachusetts, and returned to her mom. She did get on the train, but she did not go to Medford. She went to Miami.
I mean, she can't really stay in Medford if they're saying that her
Yeah.
bronchitis and asthma are issues.
When she settled in Florida, she resumed her correspondence with Matt Gordon, and in 1945, Gordon supposedly proposed they marry when he returned home from active duty. Despite only having met him in person a few times, um, she did. She was like, "Yeah, let's get married."
Okay, see, right now, in my thought, because I know we keep talking about us upgrading and doing things, this is where I would add that piece from Frozen. You just met him.
Mm.
that that would pop up right about now
Well,
after
she
you
knew him
say
in
that.
1943, but they did not meet in person for a long time. They wrote a lot of letters to each other.
Still, I'd be throwing that right in there as Anna is talking to Hans, and her sister about getting married, and then I would throw Kristoff in there.
Her enthusiasm was short-lived
Oh,
because on August 10th, 1945, his plane was shot down and he was killed in the crash.
oh, that's sad.
Yeah, she was 20 at the time. Following his, following her work, following this,
Mm.
she went to work as a
Hi.
waitress again, but she didn't want to stay in Florida, and she returned to Medford, Massachusetts. She found work in a local movie theater, and when she was back home, she really didn't feel settled or satisfied. She thought she was going to feel comfort by being in Medford.
Yeah.
She didn't love it there. On April 17th, 1946, she packed her few belongings and returned to California, this time to settle in Hollywood. And it seemed by all accounts she struggled to find her footing in California. For a while, according to Steve Riddell, she seemed to have lived a transient life. She lived in boarding houses with a variety of roommates. She stayed at a hotel in Long Beach for several months and then returned to Hollywood. She danced around from home to home, and eventually she found an apartment where she lived with seven other young women. Now, during this time, Elizabeth was barely getting by on her wages as a waitress at the Florentine Gardens nightclub, and it was a few weeks before her death she actually struggled to afford rent. Her friend told detectives 2 to 3 weeks before Christmas she said she was going to Berkeley, but instead of going to Berkeley, she actually went to San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
And she said just before Christmas Day, she sent a wire saying she was low on funds and asking to send her $20. She had been gone for around 3 weeks when she received another wire saying she was coming back and stated a letter would follow. That was the last she was heard
Mm.
from. The letter never came, and the friend never heard from her again.
Mm.
Elizabeth did return to LA on January 9th, and she was seen leaving Olive Street entrance at the Biltmore Hotel. And that would be the last time anyone but the killer saw her alive.
Huh.
Now, in 1947, Los Angeles had been pretty accustomed to seeing reports of violence in the press. But the story of Elizabeth Short was unlike anything that anyone had ever seen before. The news of the discovery hit the paper and set off a media frenzy.
Oh, wow.
It was more likely due to what historian Dan Martin called the brutal, misogynistic, and ritual nature the murder contained.
Wow.
The Los Angeles Times wrote and called it an orgy of torture. The members of the press were quick to emphasize the sexual undertones of the killing. Um, the crime of the crime, labeling the killer as a sex maniac and a sex fiend. And once Elizabeth was identified, the story picked up some more steam because she was beautiful and she was mysterious. Apparently, she dated a lot of men, and people started salacious rumors.
Yeah.
It
Of
became, as
course they
Martin
would.
called, a sad cliche and a warning tale. She had come to Hollywood to become a movie actress, but like many before her, she found disappointment, struggle, and death.
The positive thing on her note though is that she didn't give up on trying. Number
Yeah.
one, she also was able to find shelter no matter where she could find it, whether
Mm-hmm.
it was seven other women or different people, and then staying in a hotel for a few months. I will admit, I love California.
Mm-hmm.
California is a beautiful, well, where we've gone, I haven't
Yeah.
gone north. It's a beautiful state. It is not for everyone.
Yeah.
It's not. And if I could afford it and could live there, that we'd be going there.
Yeah.
I love my family. I would go where I'm happy, and that is one of our favorite places to go when we travel. But it's not for everyone. It's
No.
not, and it's hard to for actors like her wanting to be an inspiring actress. To be that
Yeah. The
that
glamour,
movie star that she wants to
the
be.
Glamour Girls murder, where we talked about
Yeah,
how a lot of like struggling actresses would like dress up as pinup models, and I also
yeah,
wonder that's why he didn't pose her the way he posed her
yeah. Like she could have been going there
to take get money
to get
for.
money for that stuff because she couldn't make it.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying she probably couldn't make it as an actress.
Yeah.
We will never know now because of what has happened to her. But kind of thinking it that way, I mean, who's to say she didn't see an ad
Yeah. Went to go
for
see.
something like that? And maybe she was a part of the glamour girl
Mm,
society or group, but we just
yeah.
don't know about her
We
until
don't.
now. So I agree. I agree with that. I could see that happening for her to where she's
Because
trying
again, if
to.
she dated a lot of men, ooh, she dates men. And if a man was dating a bunch of women, you wouldn't bat an eyelash.
You're like, yeah, dude, way to go.
Yeah.
Fist bump, man. Guess
So
who I slept with?
exactly. So now within
Y'all
days,
brag.
of finding out who she was, the press began calling her the Black Dahlia because she wore one in her hair often.
You're the flower.
Yes.
Yep.
She also wore a lot of black clothing and she had black hair, so it's kind of.
And then you got the blue eyes.
Hmm.
The eyes will pop with black hair.
It was possible the press was influenced by the popular noir film The Blue Dahlia, which was released a year earlier.
Okay.
So like the crime scene itself, the canvas of the neighborhood offered few clues to guide them. In the investigation, one local man named Bob Meyer told detectives he saw a 1930s model Ford sedan stop in front of the lawn around 6:30 a.m. that day, and he said it lingered near the area where the body was found before driving away. But he couldn't recall any other details. Luckily, um, because they knew who she was, they could start connecting people to her.
Yeah.
And they started with Phoebe, one of her friends and I think roommates, and they talked to her and they set out to learn all of they could about Elizabeth. And no, Phoebe's her mom. Her mom, when Phoebe learned of her daughter's death, when she received a phone call from the Los Angeles Examiner,
Oh, jeez.
which was then confirmed by the LAPD.
So it should have been the LAPD calling her first.
But instead, she was called first by
The
the Los
Examiner.
Angeles Examiner.
Jeez.
According to Phoebe, Elizabeth traveled to San Diego a few weeks before her death and found work in Naval Hospital. There she said she left Hollywood because it was difficult to get work as an extra. Phoebe didn't know why she returned to Los Angeles on the night of her disappearance, and she couldn't offer any insight.
Yeah.
Now, given the sexual nature of the crime, the investigation turned to Elizabeth's romantic life. According to Phoebe, though, Elizabeth's only serious relationship was with a man named Matt Gordon, the Air Force pilot. Phoebe knew of no other serious relationships that Elizabeth had.
But then that Matt Gordon is the one that died in the plane
I think so,
crash.
yes. Her friends and roommates are like, she's had relationships, but they weren't serious. According to the Los Angeles Times, she was known to her friends as a girl with a different boyfriend every night.
Oh, okay.
Several roommates said she had a fondness for sailors, and she often visited nightclubs where soldiers were known to visit.
Oh, I kind of
So
wonder.
she had a type.
Yep. She liked that
Uh,
man in uniform.
Her former roommate Linda Rohr said she was always going out and she loved to crowd the boulevard.
Okay.
She seems like the life of the party.
There you go. Let's hang out with her. Let's go with Black Dog. We don't need no dudes. We just need somebody that's gonna make it lively.
In their interviews with those closest to her, the police learned of several different men they believed could have played a role in her death. One of the men she dated, one man in particular they were very interested in, had told her friends she was deathly afraid of him. According to Elizabeth's former coworker, Cheryl Malin, there was a tall, sinister, elderly man that approached her at a bar where she worked a few weeks earlier and asked her for Schwartz's whereabouts, and Malin thought he could be the killer.
Mm.
Other roommates told the police about a radio announcer with a British accent named Maurice that Elizabeth had talked about a few weeks prior to her death, but they didn't know anything else about him. There
You
were
have fun over there? Just asking. You're rolling
There
around.
were mostly unnamed men who came up in their investigation, including a man in Beverly Hills that offered to pay her rent, and another in San Bernardino that asked her to move in with him. The tips went nowhere.
God. I mean, like I take the dude up on the offer to pay my rent.
But like they're all unnamed. Like she keeps it on the down low, but everyone's like she has a new boyfriend every day.
We just don't know their names. Sorry. We can't tell you that. We just know he lives in Beverly Hills.
We know this one in San Bernardino. He was like, "Come live with me."
Can't tell you who.
The head detective on the case told reporters she probably went too far this time and just sent some guy into a berserker rage, and then he called her a tease.
Sorry to laugh.
So the police are now saying, it's probably her fault. She like teased the man, and then he killed her because he got mad because she said no.
Mm.
It's not her fault.
No means
no.
no.
And
Bad.
just because you're nice to someone doesn't mean you're attracted to them.
Yeah, true. I've been hit on so many times on Instagram. I'll tell John, I'm like, can you believe this fool? He's like, what? And no joke, they do it because John and I follow each other on pretty much every social media we have.
Mm-hmm.
TikTok, which I don't get on, Facebook, Instagram, because we're always sharing things with each other. I had one guy, it was hilarious. John was asleep. I see this message, I read it, and I was like, seriously? And I tell them right off the bat, it's like, no, thank you. I'm in a relationship. That's the first thing I tell them. Apparently, they don't read that part. Kept going. I'm like, you know what? All right, I'm going to block you now. I know. You need to stop messaging me. Come to find out, it was for me to send them money, which is a major scam. And trust me, I don't do it. I didn't send anybody money. I had one guy that was talking to me saying he has a 15-year-old son. I was like, oh, cool, yeah, my son's this age. Well, and that's it. I don't say names, nothing else. And then I told him in the beginning also, I'm in a relationship. So
I think I was like,
the fact that they're all like, oh, she had so many men, it could have been one of them, but you're not gonna give me the name
yeah,
because she probably didn't give them
yeah. She didn't give the
the
name.
name.
She was like, you know what? I got this guy in San Marino. Like,
Wouldn't it be funny if you know how we had to find my phone? Wouldn't it be hilarious back there if they had to find my roommate just to find it?
Do you know how many deaths that would?
Exactly. That's why they tell you when you have your phone and you go out,
That's why women
share your
always share
location.
their location.
Why
You
do you
ever
think we
wonder?
go to the bathroom in a group?
Exactly. Every
We ain't stupid.
That's the thing. That's like men are like, why do you guys go to the bathroom? Why are you texting each other all the time? Because we're trying to be safe.
Exactly. Even if you're going on a road trip, like I told her, we're supposed to go on a road trip in March. Um, and I go, I'm going to share it with her. I'm going to share it with my brother and my sister.
When we move, I'm gonna be sharing my location with her.
Exactly. And then when we go to follow after them, I'm going to be sharing my location again. Then the going in March is debatable now because we don't know what the heck's going on.
Yeah.
But right now we're still going. But yeah, so I get it. But it'd be kind of funny if they put a tracker when you buy a bra. I'm my friend.
Uh, no, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I'm like, track you. Why is she? Because like usually the way we go through is like through Vaughn
Yeah.
to go to Kansas. Why is she not going through? Why is she going the other way? Justin, where's Abby? I don't know. She went to the bathroom. There's something wrong.
Somebody has her phone. Like when you while you were in Kansas, you guys went for your grandmother's thing, right? And I seen where you were at, and then they're all like, "You're checking on her." I was like, "No, I'm looking to see where they are." I know they were heading to the funeral thing,
My
and then all of a
boss.
sudden, 2 seconds later, you're at a coffee shop. I'm like, "The fuck she did in a coffee shop? She just okay." It's in the same parking lot.
Uh, Gary, my boss, on the
Oh,
way to the funeral, he texted me and he's like, I can see where you are.
oh, the brewery.
I can see you're by the brewery. And I was like, are you looking at Michelle's phone right now?
And I didn't show him the phone. I just told him where they're passing by. That's all I said. And
It's funny because I sent her a photo. We drove by Gary, New Mexico.
you
And I
know,
go, I can't escape it.
because his name is freaking Gary, and he liked that one. He started laughing. He goes, "I'm everywhere." It's like that's the scary part, dude. So so explain it now to you men. Do you all men get it? Why we go to the bathroom together? Why we always go as twos, if not more?
Sometimes men can be really, like, for example, when I was like, I haven't told Justin this story because he would be very, very upset. So when I was like 19, 20, I think, I was young. I don't remember how old I was. No, I was just starting to work at Walmart. I was just starting to work at Walmart.
Yeah.
And it was like 2020. I'm walking because I would walk to and from work. I would cut through
Well,
an
you're pretty
apartment.
close though.
Yeah, and I would cut through an apartment complex. And all of a sudden, I would see this dude, and he would be walking his dog at the same time every day. And I'm like,
Is he who I
okay,
think it is?
no, he's my
Oh,
best
okay.
friend. And
She
I'm
had
like,
a stalker when she worked at Walmart too.
I'm like, okay, and I keep going. And then one day he walks up to me and he's like, "Hi, I just think you're really pretty." And I was like, "Okay, okay."
It's the get the hell out of my face,
He's like,
dude.
"Do you
Laugh.
can we exchange numbers?" And I was like,
No.
and I've never been in a situation. I'm in the middle of, and like it was kind of an isolated area, and I was like, I don't want to tell him no, and then he'd get really angry at me and kill me, and I don't know what to do. So I gave him my phone number. Stupid of me. So he texts me.
Hermione,
I
out of our
start
room.
texting back,
Come on.
and like, no, I have to listen to the story. He then asked me on a date.
Oh, that's gross.
He he asked me to go on a date to the wash to plant orange trees.
Oh, you have told me this story. I know this story. You've told us
And
this.
he texted me when I was at work, and I was like,
You've told us this story.
why am I gonna go on a date in the wash to plant orange?
because they ain't gonna fucking go there, dumbass.
I was like, never mind. I blocked him. I was like, no, thank you. And then I blocked him. Like, I then stopped cutting through that apartment complex and started cutting through the other apartment.
I don't blame you. Oh, and here's another one that she has. Dude.
I attract crazy, sadly.
This guy, and we'll get back to the case. This guy would call every day. Every day asking for her. And she would be standing there, and I could see his name on the caller ID because it would pop up. And he's like, "How do you know my name?" It's like, "Sir, we have caller ID on the Walmart phones. We can see who's calling. So we see that you're calling again." He's like, "Well, can I talk to Abigail?" It's like, "Sir, I can't tell you if she's here or not. I'm not allowed to give out that information." Well, I hear her in the background, and literally she is in the background, and I look at her and I'm like, "Fuck off!" And she's all what, and like, and she's like, "What are you doing?" So I put the phone and cover it, and I go, "It's your stalker. Get away from the phone." And so she's like, "Oh shit!" So she moves, and I wasn't being mean to her. Everybody thought I was. I'm like, "You need to get away from the damn phone because he could hear you."
There was a time another coworker was talking, and I was using my team lead voice, and the back room was long, so I was like, "Can you please get into a pick walk?" And he heard me say that, and he goes, "I know she's there. I heard her voice. Give the phone to her."
No, he tried that with me, and I go, "No." I said, I told him,
the other worker did because they didn't know
no.
what to do.
And anytime that he would call, I would tell her, like, "You're not answering that phone. You were not to pick up the phone. I will answer that
I
phone."
had to contact like my coach knew about it. My coach was like, "Don't answer the phone. Don't be near the phone when he calls."
Yeah, we had to do it that
It
bad.
got to the point that we had to contact our hire manager. And she was like, "Okay, we're gonna have one of the male coaches call him and talk to him."
And they did. I mean, he still called, but it wasn't as bad. But whenever they're like, we would tell her like, "Abby, your stalker's calling again." And I sit there and they're like, he's gonna want to talk to you. He's like, she ain't just not touching that phone. Mm-hmm. Anytime that he called, I would answer that phone, or somebody else would answer that phone. And I would tell them, it's like, "You do not tell him she is here because you are not allowed to give out that information."
And the reason it was so weird, it wasn't like he would keep me on the phone for like 15 minutes, right?
Oh no, he'd do it for half an hour to an hour.
For like, no, there was one time I was on the phone for an hour and a half, and then immediately afterwards he got off the phone, called back, and I was on the phone for 45 minutes with him.
Yeah.
It would be 2 hour long phone calls of just talking about, asking me random questions, asking me all this stuff, and I get it. I'll gladly help a customer. But when you're calling every day, specifically asking for me, it's a little bit weird, my guy.
And then guess what we got to do when we started doing in-home deliveries? We got to deliver to the numbnuts.
Yeah, they had to deliver.
And I had to deliver to him one day. And I think, did I get to see who he was or did I not? Oh no, he never came to the door.
Yeah.
Because we were supposed to, you have to knock when it's an in-home. And I think he was an in-home at that time. Now, he has not ordered from our store ever since I stopped driving the first time.
I think he stopped. I think after, because he did talk to a male coach of ours, and I
Was it
remember
Rob?
it was Rob.
You have to understand, Rob is a cool boss and a cool coach. Yet today was his last day at our store, which we love you, Rob. We will miss you. We're gonna come bug you now. But he'll still be at our store. He said he's gonna be like cleaning up and stuff like that. So he's gonna be our maid service, as he put it. So he'll be, I guess, going back and forth. So until it's like final for him or something like that, I don't know. I just heard him say he's gonna be cleaning and stuff. But getting that man on the phone when somebody talks, like when that guy was doing that to her, or when I had an older gentleman cussing and yelling at me and I had to call him over, and I sit there and I go, first off, and I told him, I was like, this is an older gentleman, but for her situation, to me, a male needed to get on the phone,
which is sad. It is a little messed up.
That's Tataru. Why are you stepping on her? Come down here, please.
She doesn't know who it is.
It's Tataru. See, look, it's Tataru. Hi, Peanut. Making her debut. Okay, we'll put it down. Good job.
It's sad though that you can't. I would try to hang up the call. I would try to do everything. The fact that I can't tell you if she's here. I can hear her in the background. At that point, my guy, get the message.
Yeah, because I think I've even hung up on him
Yeah.
because he would start getting irritated and upset with me, and what he was calling about was his orders. Why
Mm,
is my order not here yet? It's like, well, sir, that's not how it works. And I
yeah.
would sit there and say his name. He goes, well, how do you know my name? It's like we have caller ID on the Walmart phones. We can see everybody that calls, not just you, but everybody that calls.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I never gave you my name. It's on my caller ID. That's how I know who you are.
Mhm.
And I had to tell him this is the process because I was an in-home driver at the time.
Mhm.
He wanted to know the process, and I go, you're not the first person for the second half of the run to get your stuff. Sorry, this is how it works. It goes down the line because it starts at the store and it makes a giant
Mhm.
circle. You could be the last person on that list to get your crap.
Yeah. But no, that was. It's sad. It is really sad.
It is when you got to get a male person on. Even our female coach at that time tried to call and say something,
Yeah, and he
and
didn't listen to
he
her.
didn't listen to her. He just kept doing
It
it.
only. Yeah. It took Rob talking to him because I remember he called once and I answered the phone and I didn't realize it was him. He goes, "I'd like to speak to Rob," and I was like, "Okay, you can deal with Rob. I don't want to deal with you."
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry, rant's over.
Rant's over. So the more promising lead was a tip about another former boyfriend, a
Dang.
man named Joseph Filling, who she met in
Who is
1944.
Joseph Filling?
Was a man who she
Sorry,
met in
it was right
1944,
there.
and he was also an Air Force pilot.
Ooh, oh, that's right. She had a thing for men in
And the
uniform.
two had been riding back and forth since she was in San Diego. Filling said she had told him not to ride anymore at San Diego, and she was go in Chicago, or she was going to Chicago in April 4th, 1947. But he did suspect he wasn't her only romantic interest. Remember, this was also while she was dating Gordon. So she was dating Gordon and Filling at the same time. And then she was like, "I'm going to Chicago," and that's probably when Gordon proposed to her.
Mm.
And that her expression of love for him might have just been disingenuous. She wrote in April, "You say in your letter you want us to be good friends, but from your wire you sent, you want more than that." Based on the letters the police found in her belongings, his confusion and her ambivalence led to the end of the relationship. He wrote in the letter, "You mention a ring from Matt, but gave no further explanation." The letter showed that Matt gave her a ring, but she never mentioned that he passed.
Mm.
Um, he said that the last he had heard of her was on January 8th, the night she left San Diego. And a few days into their investigation, they found she had been traveling in the company of an unidentified redhead man. On January 20th, 1947, detectives picked up 25-year-old Robert Manby, salesman. The press described as slender, neatly dressed, with carrot hair. Fucking 40s, man.
Yeah, carrot hair.
He was believed to have been with Elizabeth the night she disappeared. Manley admitted to the police that he had been casually dating her and he had dropped her off at the Biltmore the night she disappeared, but he flatly denied having anything to do with her death. He told detectives, and I quote, "My wife and I had some misunderstandings, and I thought I'd make a little test to see if I was still in love with my wife. So I picked up Elizabeth at a nightclub and we hit it off." The man is married. He's like, "Ugh, my wife and I had a misunderstanding. I just
I'm
wanted to
I'm
see if I
myself.
loved my wife, so I
If
decided
I'm
to get a girl.
faithful to my wife, but then you pick somebody up.
Not faithful. I wanted to see if I loved my wife, so I decided to bring another girl home."
Oh my god, you're a numbnuts.
God. You know what? Men still do that though. There are some men that still do that.
This is not the 40s.
I'm stealing one.
Go ahead.
So,
We're not in the 40s, guys.
mm-mm.
Girls can find out very easily
Oh yeah,
by
very
Find
easily.
My Phone,
Find my phone, text messages, whole
or the
bunch
girl
of stuff.
that you picked up knows her
Yeah, or
somehow.
they message. What? "Oh my gosh, I've been trying to get in contact with you." Some bitches be crazy.
I was watching. Speaking of that, I was watching one today on Charlotte,
Hmm.
the lady I watch on YouTube. Love her, by the way. She does the "Am I the a hole" series, or "Am I overreacting" series. So it's fun to watch if you like that stuff, and it's a lot of drama. And the one I watched today was about a girl getting married, and his ex-wife was messaging her, the bride to be.
About
Yeah,
what?
about her saying, "I wanna warn you that, you know, she was trying to put the blame all on her soon to be husband that she's gonna marry, but the friends and family have already backed what he has said about the ex-wife.
Mhm.
He never dogged her or cut her down or anything, the ex-wife, but the family did back the story of what he was saying, that she was just it was an unstable relationship, they divorced, all this stuff. And I was like, "Dang, okay." So that kinda reminds me of that one that I watched today with her. That's horrible.
So, according to Manley, he picked her up at Pacific Beach Motel on January 8th, drove her back to LA, but he had not connected with her, and thus did not come forward.
Oh, okay.
Police were unconvinced, because who wouldn't be? And they had him take a polygraph test. It had to be postponed because he was falling asleep during the test.
Why are you falling asleep doing a poly test? We know they're boring, but dang.
When he was conscious, he was more forthcoming with the police. He told the police the last time he had seen her, there were scratches on her arm, and she said it was due to an insanely jealous boyfriend.
Okay.
Although he appeared to be telling the truth, his story was inconsistent with other statements, particularly that of William Sullivan, a railway express clerk, who claimed to have seen her January 14th. He said he had seen a woman resembling her with a red haired man, and they inquired about shipping a trunk and some suitcases to Ketchikan Hospital. When asked to whom the items were being shipped, the woman said Elizabeth Short. The same couple was seen an hour later by Jade Gray, a waitress at a cafe in San Diego. She described the man as fair complected and he was slightly freckled. Manley, Manley became a very good suspect. The following day, Sullivan admitted to the detectives he had been mistaken in the ID of Manley. Sullivan changed his story to another woman matching Short's description had come forward saying she had been there, so she had been mistaken. Another woman, very similar looking to
Short.
Short, came forward and said, "Yeah, we were there," and she had been at the train station with her red-haired boyfriend
Hmm.
at that train station, so he had gotten confused. When he was shown a picture of this woman, he was like, "Yeah, that's her." So he had lied about the name being given. No, she never gave the name Elizabeth Short. The railway person
Hmm.
clerk made that up. People will be people.
Yep.
Um, with this, uh, Captain Jack Donahue ordered Robert Manley
Captain
released.
Jack Sparrow.
Now, only a week into the investigation, detectives were certain they were going to find a killer in her love life, and they realized it was a dead end. So Detective Harry Hansen told reporters on January 23rd, "We are right back to where we started." Nearly 200 officers fanned across the city looking for any clues, many following up on false confessions that were happening as well. Because believe it or not, there were a lot of men coming forward saying that they did it when they didn't.
Wow. They just wanted the publicity.
Yeah. The police had to follow up on these false confessions because at the time, how could they determine what was false and what wasn't? And the coroner's inquest confirmed the details of the murder but did not answer any questions they had, especially in the gap of time between the murder and her going missing on the 9th.
Hmm.
On January 25th, the police got a break.
25th.
A postal clerk spotted a package addressed simply to the Los Angeles newspaper. He looked at it and went, "Weird." And he was like, "Here you go, police. This is a strange package with no return address."
Yeah.
Smart. Smart.
Good job.
Smart.
Go get yourself a cookie.
Um, Inside, the police found Elizabeth's birth certificate, her address book, a check ticket, and other personal items that belonged to her, as well as a note from the sender. And uh, and the note was cut from magazines and newspapers. And it said, "Here is the Black Dahlia's belongings. Letter to follow."
Okay, first off, your mom would be the only one that should have your birth certificate.
No, she would have a birth certificate.
Well, yes, because she moved. But what the frick?
Because
Wow.
remember, she moved out of that apartment, so she probably had it on her.
Oh wow. That's creepy.
Hmm. You didn't know that?
What, the box or her just
The
having all
box.
of her stuff? Yeah, that's no, I didn't know anything about the box.
Yeah.
They when I learned about the Black Dahlia, it was very short, sweet, to the point.
Hmm.
That she was murdered. That's it. They didn't go really into detail. Not like what we do. But okay, a box. What's in the box?
So during his interview, Robert Manley said he saw Elizabeth's address book in her purse after he dropped her off at the Biltmore, and he had seen the baggage check ticket from the Greyhound station. So the detectives concluded that the sender of the package must have seen Elizabeth after she left the Biltmore, and it could be a killer.
Huh. Or the killer was following him.
Yeah. One detective said, "We have so many leads, we don't know which one to choose first at this point."
Yeah.
Police theorized the killer, sensing the case was going cold, had sent the materials to the press to keep his work on the front page. While several detectives ran through the names of people in her address book, other areas started combing other dump areas looking for her purse. The day before the package was received, someone had reported seeing a bag matching the description of her purse in a trash can on Crenshaw Boulevard, not far from where her body was found.
Right.
On January 26th, the bag was found at the trash dump on East 26th. Alongside what they found were the shoes she had been wearing the night she disappeared. Both were identified as Elizabeth Short's. The bag was identified by the cafe owner on Crenshaw Boulevard who initially reported it. This did help police narrow down, saying the killer was a local, and Detective Harry Fremont said, "I'm still convinced the killer is still in town, and I'm almost certain it is he who mailed us Elizabeth Short's belongings." Having run down the names in her address book, and they had ruled out all the men in the book, they began hoping the sender would follow up with another letter,
And why
just
does
to
it
help him out.
and why does it have to be a he? It could have been a female wearing men's shoes.
Yeah.
It, I mean,
Well, no, it was Elizabeth Short's shoes.
hmm, I meant the crime scene.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, the news of the package prompted another flood of new anonymous correspondence. Almost all of them were hoaxes. One letter read, "Is a certain girl is going to get the same as ES. Got it if she squeals on us." And another said, "ES got it, Carol Marshall's next." Other notes suggested the killer was going to give themselves up. One of them said the Dahlia killer cracking one's terms. That was a postcard sent from Pasadena. Uh, it was just weird stuff. People being people. We're actually going to talk more about it with Jack the Ripper.
Wow.
Um, this is not uncommon. When a killer sends a message, people go, "You know what? I'm gonna send messages too." What in your head?
Like I don't want to be left out.
What in your head thinks it's okay to start blocking a police investigation because now they gotta look at your letters. They gotta see if your letters are real or not. Taking
Mhm.
away from the actual crime scene.
Mhm.
What, did your mom and dad not love you enough to give you enough attention? Come on. I'm sorry, that was uncalled for. I apologize. Okay? I apologize. I get upset when things like this happen.
Yeah,
I will warn you, when we get to the Jack the Ripper case, I'm gonna get really upset when we talk about the letters.
that's why we're gonna take breaks in between.
This rage is uncontrollable when it comes to these letters. So, so there was a postcard sent from Pasadena. No, among these was a postcard written in block letters, and it caught investigators' attention. It said, "Turning on Wednesday, January 29th, 10 a.m. Had my fun at police. Black Dahlia Avenger." This one they took seriously because it didn't have the grandiosity the others had. But they thought the phrase here was referencing the killer's earlier claim that the letter was going to follow the package, just like the letter had indicated.
Yeah.
On Wednesday, January 29th, a man came forward to LAPD and confessed he had killed Elizabeth Short. 33-year-old Daniel Voorhees. Not related to the movies.
Dang it. There's a little glimmer of hope. Come on.
He told detectives he had met her 2 downtown Los Angeles and had taken her for a ride on Wilshire Boulevard, and he stopped short of providing other details about the murder itself. According to Voorhees, they had met in 1941, and he had taken her on several dates before they lost touch. But when asked for more details, he refused to say anything. Voorhees insisted, "I'm sick and I did kill Beth Short," and he was willing to sign any document confessing to it.
So dramatic.
So Daniel Voorhees was booked in the county jail that evening on suspicion of murder. And there's going to be a polygraph test done because they wanted him to return from his bewildered and befuddled state at the time of her arrest. It seemed like a major break in the case. But there were several things in the confession that made detectives skeptical. Because there were several things in the confession there, in addition to his refusal to provide any details on the murders or how he came to know it, they said his story was inconsistent. It was full of contradictions. And they had contacted the Phoenix Police Department.
Why does it always come back to Arizona?
And learned that Voorhees had a long record of petty offenses. And
Okay.
at the moment, he wasn't living anywhere, and he was unwell.
Mm.
He was not well in the head.
I mean, neither was Jason Voorhees.
He woke up and said, "Maybe I killed her, but I can't take you to the murder scene." He was held for more few days while they looked into his story, but it became clear it was just a bad confession. He hadn't killed her.
What?
With Daniel Voorhees' confession turning out to be false and the letters also stopped, they found themselves at a dead end after 2 weeks of intense investigation involving hundreds of LAPD officers, and they combed through all leads and clues.
Do you have the chip on your tongue? Because you can hear a lisp.
Yes, I did.
Sorry. You're like, investigation. I'm all like, what? Wait, what? So I'm all like, what? Listening to her talk. She goes, he has to leave. I'm like, what is wrong with your tongue? Oh my God.
So they found themselves at 2 weeks intense investigation involving hundreds of LAPD officers, and they combed through all the leads and clues, and they couldn't even find a murder weapon.
Are you waiting for Grandpa?
So the LA Times declared it almost appeared certain the elusive killer was a stranger to Miss Short, as even her closest associates had not given the slightest inkling to police on the identity of the murderer. Chief of Police Jack Donahue agreed, telling reporters most likely the Black Dahlia's nemesis was a pickup, whom she did not previously know. In the earlier days of February,
Sorry, excuse me.
Tips continued to come in, and the LAPD had to run each one because they couldn't ignore them. And among them was a woman in Long Beach who claimed to have heard an earthly scream coming from a long, expensive car the night she disappeared. The informant said she had been waiting by the bus stop when she saw a man holding a woman down in the rear car seat and a man and woman in the front seat. Her friends, trying to come up with something, said she had recently plugged cavities in her mouth with wax candies, which sent investigators back to potential witnesses to see if they had seen anyone caring for their teeth in such a manner. Most of their tips came from the LA area, but some other counties also wasted police resources. In early February, police received a call from officials at Fort Dix in New Jersey saying one of their soldiers, Joseph Dumas, had disclosed to Army investigators he had been on a date with Elizabeth Short the night she disappeared.
Somebody has the name Dumas. Oh, this is getting good.
He claims to have gone on a date with her on January 9th, but after that his mind went blank, and the next thing he remembered, he was in Pennsylvania Station in New York. Fort Dix analyzed his clothes, found bloodstains in one of the pockets of his pants. Now they began digging into his background. They learned that the 29-year-old soldier had been married 3 times, and at least one location had been examined by a psychiatrist who recommended he be hospitalized for psychological reasons.
Obviously.
Also, while Dumas claimed to have been in
He
LA,
can't stop saying his last name.
the previous month, there was no record of him traveling to California recently. It was later determined he had nothing to do with Elizabeth Short's murder, and the bloodstains were from a bloody handkerchief. But then by then the investigators had already wasted several days and precious man hours in this completely false bullshit.
And and I can see why now. This makes cheese and crackers, dog. That what was it? Like you're saying, they're wasting man hours, and police time
Mhm.
and resources and all that crap. No wonder police have been cut back on funding, and no wonder police don't come, like right away when it's certain things, you know,
Because they're literally being, if there is a
drug different directions.
exactly. That's why like there's such a big push. So like for example, police officers shouldn't be responding to psychiatric calls.
No,
They're not trained for it.
that's why
They're trained for aggressive behavior.
now that's why we have CRC.
Exactly.
We have CRC now that is put in place from the police.
But not every police department has it. Not every state has it. Not every county has it.
Exactly. So it's like if you live in a state that has CRC and somebody is acting erratically and their behavior is not normal that you know of, call that place. Like you can't. I'm not, and this is not a negative. I have much respect for police, much respect for police, but you can't rely on them to always come fix what is going on in that time. You can't rely on them to take care of your problems because necessarily what's going to happen is they're going to give you, okay, well, here's the case number. This is a civil matter. You need to take it to court. So I can understand why now a lot of things are going on. Hence now they've been cut back on the funding and all that jazz.
As the first week of February came to an end, police became desperate for leads and eventually returned to what the press called the clues. So they're doubling back on things, right?
No, we're good. They're fully charged.
I never turned mine on.
Well, they can hear you on mine. That's all right. I turn mine on. I forgot
So-
to plug it in.
And I forgot to turn on my mic, so you might be able to hear me better.
You might hear now, but you probably hear on mine, so we're good.
So
It's always something.
so some team members went back to old suspects and witnesses hoping to find something new. Leading no matter how insignificant, like the cavity thing, like the fact she was using wax candies to plug the cavities in her teeth. They were looking to see who else does that. Maybe she learned it from somewhere.
I mean, not only that, but wax candy to put in your teeth, that's a little worse on your teeth because it's going to eat it away. But understandably, she's probably in so much pain. Hence why she was trying to find a lot of work to fix it. That makes sense.
So this included a report from a young woman in Culver City who told police she'd been waiting for a bus when a man in a 1940 sedan approached her. Isabel Foster, the man, asked if I wanted a ride. I refused. He then took a long butcher knife and ordered me into his car. She started to panic and started to cry, and the man told her to shut up or he'd give me what he gave the black Dahlia. It became clear to everyone this was growing cold, but at the end of February, investigators still grasping at straws at this point, looking for any detail, but again, coming up empty. A few weeks later, police acknowledged they had no leads and the case was cold. The story of the Black Dahlia had dominated the papers for weeks, with stories informed very heavily by people just theorizing, speculation, and whatever the LAPD was willing to release. The latter included info about certain arrests and suspects who were ruled out, but behind the scenes, there were other suspects whose name didn't even get released, and who were considered way more seriously than those released to the press.
Yeah.
Also, in the years since Elizabeth Short's death, a large number of authors and journalists published books and articles naming suspects, ranging from people like Orson Welles and Woody Guthrie, and even gangster Bugsy Siegel.
What? Really? Yeah. Okay, yes, that was a natural reaction on my face because I've never heard this part. Again, there's a lot. I love doing I love doing cases because what I might have heard and learned in school or growing up, she covers more.
Yeah. So a lot of people have been pointed to for this case. The suspect had 20 names, including doctors and even a few women, because women can be killers too.
Slaying.
False information.
Slaying. Slaying if you ain't laying.
What? What's the thing I say?
Paying.
What's the thing I keep saying? Police protect and serve, but they mostly are there to just serve looks.
I disagree. There's lots of
Wrong.
excellent law enforcement out there, and
We're not
the
saying that
ones
there's
that are
not.
scum are maybe 5% of 100% good.
We're not saying that.
You know what? Men are right.
No.
No.
That's why we live longer.
Oh.
Did you all make the wrong choice?
Oh,
I put the hamburger meat out. I don't know if it's thawed out yet though.
So some of these theories have been debunked over time, like Bugsy Siegel and Orson Welles and Woody Guthrie.
It's like right when you said Orson Welles, I'm like, really?
Orson Welles.
Yeah. So there is an interesting theory in John Gilmore's 1994 book, The True Story of the Black Dahlia.
I bought the stuff for tacos. You're not gonna do it. I put it out so it'll thaw out. Will you turn the light on above the stove? Like not the big light. The big light. The big light.
Said not the big light, the big light, the big light. Exactly how you said
I
it.
said not. I'm saying not above
Folks,
the stove.
We're gonna make a vote here.
Will you just turn the light
Yes,
on
ma'am.
so I can see to
Yes,
cook when I'm done?
So the suspects Jack Anderson Wilson, aka Arnold Smith, as a killer,
No more rebel free.
based on largely circumstantial evidence. It's all circumstantial. Um, he bases it on an interview he conducted with Wilson before his death.
It was an vampire.
In the interview, Wilson claimed he had been driven to kill by some supernatural force. He told Gilmore he had to do that when the spirit overtook him. Wilson hinted at his participation in the murder, saying, "You understand the trouble I could get into because of what he did." Which to me doesn't add up because the kill was methodical. There was no way he was possessed by a spirit and in a frenzy. Because you don't kill in a frenzy and be methodical.
No.
Now, if she had been stabbed like 120 times.
Stabbed? She been stabbed?
Stabbed. If she had been stabbed in like 120 times and like what? The Career Girl murders where it was just like brutal and like frenzied and everything like that?
Yeah.
That I can understand. You don't cleanly bisect a person when you're possessed.
Oh yeah. You know, our Kleenex have glitter. Squirrel. It does. It has glitter.
So
in it.
I will also say his book has come under scrutiny for a lot of inaccuracies and mistakes. Among other things, Gilmore paid Wilson for the interview, and it has been pointed out that after the book was released, he had moved on to a different theory about the killing.
And what theory might that be?
Theory of evolution.
As one asks.
In 1982, in an interview with the Herald Examiner, he described the suspect he refers to as only Mr. Jones.
Ooh.
They call him Mr. Jones.
According to Gilmore, Mr. Jones had confessed to the murder of one of the Gilmore contacts, and his version of events goes as such. Mr. Jones picked up Short at the Biltmore, and then she and Jones traveled from an apartment in Hollywood to the Roosevelt
She
Hotel.
said Biltmore, not Gilmore. No.
Where he picked up a key to the house at 33rd and Trinity. Jones was angered by Short's behavior and her refusal to give in to his advances. The two quarreled about a phone call she wanted to make, and when she insisted on leaving the house, and in a crazed Jones beat her, and then losing all control, tortured and killed her. In his frenzy, he cut up the body to dispose of it, which again doesn't make sense because if you're gonna you're in a frenzy, you just killed someone, you're panicking because you just murdered someone, you don't pose the body.
Yeah.
Why not? This is my dead friend.
We're not going to answer that.
He claims to have cut the body in half in panic at the prospect of the discovery, wrapped each part in curtains from the house, and wrapped the entire bundle in an oilskin tablecloth, and loaded the body in a car. He claimed to have tracked him down in so Gilmore, the writer, claimed to have tracked him down in 1978 and found him living in Indianapolis. And when the author went to see him, he didn't want to talk to him. Gilmore said that he looked at him. Now, I'm sorry, I didn't talk to him about Elizabeth Short because I didn't know at the time he had killed her. I didn't have that part of the story. So basically, he's like, Mr. Jones killed her. You know what? And the only time I actually met Mr. Jones was he wouldn't talk to me.
Oh, okay.
So that was the big theory, was Gilmore knew the killer, talked to the killer,
Yeah.
and that was the big suspects until 1991, when an issue arose, and that was a new suspect, 54-year-old Westminster resident Janice Knowlton. She went to the press claiming her father, George Knowlton, was her killer. Janice had been undergoing psychiatric treatment and claimed she uncovered repressed memories of her father killing Elizabeth in their garage. Now, that was in January of 1947 she claimed this happened. She claimed that her dad, who died in an accident in 1962, had been dating Elizabeth Short, and Short had been staying in a makeshift sleeping room in the garage where she had a miscarriage. According to Knowlton, she remembers the woman Elizabeth Short sitting in a chair under a bright light and her father hitting the woman in the face with a claw hammer.
Oh, jeez.
Janice claimed to have witnessed the whole thing while hiding in the family's garage. She claims to have seen her father use a power saw to cut the body in half. Again, the cut was too clean.
Yeah.
A power saw would leave jagged marks. Her organs were perfectly intact. They were not mangled.
They would have been perforated.
Exactly. The following day, she says her father took the body to a utility room next to the pier, gutted her, and cleaned the victim's body. Again, she was not gutted. Her organs were
We're
still
in.
there.
Yeah.
I will sad to think that if she did see her dad kill somebody, and it wasn't Elizabeth Short, who did he kill?
Yeah.
She went through it. She could think of her. Also, it's sad that she thought of her. She could think of her dad as like a killer. The LAPD is still chasing anything down for the Black Dahlia. They're still looking up any lead they get. So she brought that up. The LAPD looked into that case. They're still actively trying to solve the Black Dahlia murder.
Maybe if I had a Dutch Brothers, I could solve it for you right now. But I don't have one. So you know what? No.
You got off work late.
Yep, it's your fault.
I'm not going to solve it. I know who did it.
No, you don't.
It was a woman.
Okay.
Well, regardless of what, if she was believed, Janice was convinced her dad was a killer. She told a reporter he was a very sadistic man. She also claimed he didn't just kill Short, but 2 other people, one of whom was mutilated, buried in the family's yard in Westminster. In the summer of 1991, investigators in Westminster received approval to excavate the lot where Norton's house once stood. Westminster Lieutenant Larry Wassner said she seems to think we may find a purse or other belongings of Elizabeth Short. And a few days later, when the site was dug up, they found a rusty knife and animal bone fragments and costume jewelry. It looked like it was purposefully buried, but there was no conclusive evidence found of a murder. So Westminster police declined to open an investigation. Nevertheless, Janice maintained her belief that her dad killed Elizabeth Short. She even went on shows like Larry King Live, Sally Jesse Raphael.
I think she was mad because her dad locked her up.
Probably. And promoted her story. In 1995, she published a book with Michael Newton titled Daddy Was the Black Dahlia Killer. Even when the popularity of her book died down, she remained convinced. An LA Times reporter said she'd leave a long rambling voice messages on my answering machine at the time, and she died of a drug overdose on March 5th, 2004.
And there it is.
It was unlikely if he was the killer.
Yeah.
In 2003, another person stepped forward and offered up their dad as a potential suspect for the case. In his 2003 book, The Black Dahlia Avenger, A Genius for Murder, former LAPD homicide detective Steve Hodel, he was known by his colleagues as being a good cop and a good guy. He offers a compelling case for who he thinks the killer is, his father, Dr. George Hodel.
That's why I'm like, wait a minute. This is like making some sense to me because
he was a surgeon.
Yes, and I remember, did I not call it, peeps? I said it might be a surgeon or it could be a coroner. But if I remember right, in one of the episodes of Ghost Adventures,
it's a woman.
Zach Bagans and them go to the dude's house because he has a pool, a big old pool, and it's haunted. And they went there for a freaking episode, and I'm like sitting there thinking, Holden, why does that name sound so familiar? And then when you, yes, I know this one.
He believes he killed Elizabeth Short at the time of her disappearance and murder. Hodel was well known and a highly respected physician.
Yes.
And at one time was head of the country's social hygiene bureau. According to Hodel, he was a hard and cold individual with a large ego, whose demeanor bordered on tyrannical. He was also an experienced physician, and he had the tools and space needed to commit the murder without detection.
And this is how I learned about the Black Dahlia,
He
is
needed,
by watching Ghost Adventures.
he needed a place where no one could hear her scream. If you look at George Hodel's house, it's huge.
Yes, it is.
It has a huge basement
Yep.
and it has tunnels. There were a lot of people in the house who did what needed to be done to survive, it is also said. He also hired the people who worked there, and if they snitched, he would kill them.
Mm-hmm. Because his house was pretty long.
He would make sure that everyone was on his side. So he would shoot the help if he felt that they were not on his side.
Yeah. So and like
Um,
she said, the house is huge. Because if you can go find that episode of Ghost Adventures and the Black Dahlia case, where when they go and they talk about Holden, his house is like, it's not one of those that goes this way or it's like a box. His was like long. His was a elongated house, and you could tell that it was owned by somebody who made money.
hmm Well, we're gonna get into who George Hodel is because there's a lot of shit in here.
Yo, yeah, there is.
Um, no one would talk about him because of the shit he had on them.
Mm-hmm.
He relied on blackmail. Now, George Hodel Jr. was born and raised in LA in the first decade of the 20th century, which is a big and exciting time for the city, and he was really smart. He scored the highest on every test and he graduated high school early, and he enrolled in the California Institute of Technology at 15 years old.
Jeez, smart pants.
One result of him being so smart was that he was treated differently from his peers his whole life and given the impression he was special and deserving special treatment his whole life. Just 1 year into his time at Caltech, he was expelled. According to Steve Hodel, his expulsion was for engaging in a sexual relationship with a faculty member's wife.
Dude, come on.
Also for gambling on campus, which both were against the rules.
I'm still.
In the years that followed, he drifted from job to job, including working as a crime scene reporter with the Los Angeles Record during the Prohibition era.
Jeez.
Before enrolling in pre med in 1929, he went on to pursue a medical degree at the University of California, and he graduated with said medical degree in 1936.
Oh, wow.
He also went to school at the time where the specific bisection we talked about earlier was being taught at the University of California.
Oh, so he learned how to do it.
Following his graduation, George worked his way up through the state healthcare system, making high society friends along the way and friends with Hollywood elites. It was through this record he met his first wife, Dorothy Harvey, who was the former wife of director John Huston, with whom Hodel had one kid named Tamar. Hodel's marriage with Dorothy Harvey didn't last long, but his relationship with his daughter would prove pivotal, but not only to his life, but Steve's case.
Okay.
On October 1st, 1949, Tamar disappeared from the couple's home on Franklin Street and was nowhere to be seen. She was 14 years old.
Oh, wow.
After several hours contacting friends and neighbors, George Hodel contacted the LAPD and reported her missing. 2 days later, she was found to be staying at a friend's house and she was taken into custody. While she talked with an officer, she explained she had run away because my home life is so depressing because of all the sex parties at the Franklin house.
Oh, jeez.
Now, this was shocking to the officer because she's so young. She's 14. What does she know about sex parties?
Obviously, he lives in a house that has them.
More shocking than that, Tamar had not only seen the parties, but partook in them.
Oh, my lord.
By the time the interview was over, Tamar had implicated her father and 3 other adults in a conspiracy for abuse and had confessed to sex acts with several of her male classmates at a Hollywood high school.
Jeez.
The police moved quickly and he was arrested and a few days later held in a $5,000 bail. By the time he posted bail, the press was on to him and now he's associated with sex parties.
Wow.
Tamar claimed to a reporter that Hodel had been SAing her since she was 11. and she had been encouraged to participate in sex acts with various adults at various house parties. In early December 1949, George Hodel went on trial for the abuse of his daughter, and the DA presented several witnesses who claimed to have been at the parties and verified what she alleged. Even Hodel himself in the deposition said, "This is fucked up. I forgot about this part. This is fucked up." Hodel claimed he had been delving into the mystery of love in the universe with his daughter.
Oh, wow.
He later claimed, "I didn't do that," and he suggested his memories were like that of a dream. There's one statement made by Tamar during the questioning from the defense that kind of made me like cringe a little. Defense attorney Robert Neeb asked one last question. He asked her, "Tamar, do you remember a conversation you had with a roommate at the Franklin house by the name of Joe Beret? Do you recall in that conversation making the following statement? This house has a secret passages. My father is the murderer of the Black Dahlia. My father is going to kill me and all the rest of the members of this household because he has a lust for blood." Tamar
Wow.
tried saying she didn't remember this, but despite the strength of the case going into the trial, it became clear the defense was going to make her a vindictive daughter who was willing to lie in order to get revenge on her father. One defense witness after another took the stand and called her a liar or recanted their previous statements. They said she was a bully. And Steve Hodel later learned several of those witnesses had been offered large sums of monies by his father to lie on the stand. At the
Wow.
end of the trial, George was found innocent of all charges.
I heard about that too.
Several months later, he relocated to Hawaii and remarried and cut off all communications with his kids. Steve hadn't given that statement much thought until he was going through his father's belongings after he died in 1999. He found a small photo album with his first wife before he ever met her, and also a photo of Elizabeth Short. The photo caught Steve off guard, and he started going through his dad's history more thoroughly, hoping to find out why he had a photo of Elizabeth
Mm-hmm.
Short. He later found other photos of her, but they had not been confirmed as actual photos of her. Steve Hodel, being an LAPD homicide detective, dove in headfirst. He combed through old police files and city archives, and he talked to anyone that knew his dad and could provide insight into his history. And there, he learned of his close relationships with Man Ray, who was a surrealist artist, and that would fit into his theory. According to Steve, in the mid 40s, George Hodel had been known to be a reliable and discreet provider of abortions, whose client list included Elizabeth Short. In his interviews, he met at least 8 people that knew firsthand that Hodel had a relationship with Short.
Oh, wow.
Based on that artist, Man Ray, he does a painting almost reminiscent of the crime scene. Based on all the pieces, Hodel's theory became his dad had coaxed Elizabeth Short to a party at his house where she was subjected to SA and tortured and eventually murdered. He offers a lot of circumstantial evidence, including the fact that Short's body was found positioned in a way that two of Man Ray's more famous works of art, which Hodel was interested in because he was really into surrealism,
Mm-hmm.
it the way her body was posed almost exactly mimics those paintings.
Oh, wow.
Steve wasn't alone in his suspicions following Hodel's acquittal. LAPD detectives started looking at him for the murder of Elizabeth Short, and this included Dr. Hodel being followed and having his phones tapped for a period of time.
Mm.
After the murder of Elizabeth Short, they tapped his phone. During this period, George Hodel had been heard on more than one occasion, vaguely alluding to the fact he had participated in her murder. One phone conversation on the first day, George said, "Suppose I did kill the Black Dahlia. They can't prove it now because my secretary is dead."
Oh, shit. Wow.
The investigation went nowhere and ended when he moved to Hawaii. But there was more evidence on those first few days. He also got caught bragging about paying off law enforcement officers and having officers demoted who were appearing onto his shit list. And then
Wow.
they were getting on his shit list because they were looking into him. He was literally like, "I bribed a couple officers, got a couple officers demoted because they're looking at
Wow.
me for Elizabeth Short's murder."
That you did.
So there was a Lieutenant Jameson who was working the case, and one of his physician friends said, Hodel said, I'm going to fix Tamar. I'm going to cut off a chunk of her calf, fry it, and eat it in front of her, then puke it up in front of her. Blech. He had said that about his own daughter, that he was going to cut off her calf, cook it, eat it, throw it up in front of her.
Ew.
Yeah.
Sick.
Short, actually, now this ties in. I promise it ties in. Because Short actually had a piece of flesh missing from her thigh, and a boob had been chopped off.
I think you told me that.
Yeah.
I don't remember the thigh, but I think I remember you saying that that was missing. Her
Yeah.
boob.
In
Wow.
February, when they were tapping his phone, he was speaking to another secretary, Ruth Spalding, who died of a mysterious overdose in 1945. This time he said, I thought there was something fishy. Anyways, now they may have figured out who killed her. So in February they were taping his phone and he was speaking to his secretary Ruth Spalding, who died of a mysterious overdose in 1945. They've always thought there was something fishy about her death because she overdosed with Seconal, a barbiturate and a sedative. And weird. But the transcripts that are of these calls, they're a little rough. They're bad. But in like he admitted to killing his secretary. He admitted to overdosing her, all of this fun stuff. In early 2000, Steve Hodel took the materials and presented them to the LADA, and they reviewed the evidence and decided not to pursue the case.
You have all this stuff. You got whatever.
So basically, they're like, the most leading theory is George Hodel killed her.
Well, apparently.
That is the leading theory as of this time. It is the one that has the most evidence. It's the one that makes the most sense if it's true. If he did know Elizabeth Shore. I mean, look what he did to his daughter.
Yeah. I mean, he lied.
I mean, he even confessed to it on tape.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm gonna say he's the killer because. Yeah. Again, I would go find that episode of on Ghost Adventures. That's how I learned about the Black Dahlia. So everything else that we just learned is what I did not learn.
Oh, so I'm gonna tell you something that was on that transcript.
Mm.
In the transcript, it says he tells someone to leave no trace, and there is a woman screaming in the background.
Makes sense.
So he's just up and killing people, and he never went to jail for murder. He admitted to killing his secretary. He's caught saying "leave no trace," and a woman is screaming in the background. You know what it feels very reminiscent of? Epstein.
Yeah.
It feels very reminiscent.
Yeah.
The sex parties and everything.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe Holden was his idol.
Maybe.
Maybe he was, when he was younger, he was a part of one of those parties. Who knows? Wow. I'm gonna say Dr. Holden. Right when you said the freaking name, I was like, in my head the whole time. I am picturing the house that Holden lived in, literally sitting there in like the house, picturing it. And I'm like, oh my God, I wonder if this is who I think it is. Because I didn't want to say anything until you come through and said who it was. I'm like, oh, yep, that's who it is. I knew who it was because, again, on the show, they talked about that. They talked about, and I think, oh, did they actually have his son on the show? I think they had his son on the show and they discussed it.
Yeah. And also, I love how this case ties into Phoenix. It just weirdly enough ties into Phoenix.
Everything is coming back to Phoenix and to Arizona.
Well, it's really going to
Not
tie into
everything, but
Arizona because we're gonna. No, this isn't after the Ed Gein. Ed Gein is all the Tucson murders.
yeah,
We're just going to record the Tucson cases. We're going to start recording those.
yeah.
You're going to learn about a lot of weird mob cases in Arizona. I'm just approving the spelling errors.
Well, you added a word to dictionary, so
Yeah.
you got to reprint it, and there's a word that's not spelled right.
I'll figure it out. I always do. But yeah. So tell us who you think killed the Elizabeth
it.
Short, aka the Black Dahlia.
I already know who I
Yeah.
think.
I think it was definitely George Odell. I definitely think it was
Because
George
I mean,
Odell.
even his own son
Even his own son thinks that.
comes onto the show and
And
talks
also, I
about
feel
it.
bad for his daughter.
Yeah, she got treated like dirt. Wow. And I gotta go make dinner.
And record a second episode.
Yep. So we'll go start it so I can get dinner at least going. Next time we see us, be probably tacos. Who knows? I'm just making dinner. So
Okay.
thanks guys for joining.
Bye,
See you
guys.
next time. Bye.
Stay in tune because next week we got the Long Island serial killer.
Yeah.
That was perfect timing and not planned at all. I promise.
Wasn't that? That's pretty awesome.